Most people think kelp is just slimy stuff that washes up on the beach. But it's more than that. It's food, it's oxygen, it's life for thousands of creatures, including us. And how can something growing quietly under the waves help the planet, and even us humans? I'm Ryan from BC Adventures, diving with Rachel Huber from Get Kelp, and today we're exploring one of the most underrated ecosystems on Earth. And just when we thought it couldn't get better, we had one of the wildest sea lion encounters of our lives. All right, hey adventurers, and welcome back to BC Adventures. I'm Ryan Swan, and today we got Rachel Huber here from Get Kelp. So Rachel, tell me a little bit about what Get Kelp is.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
And kind of like what you're trying to do with it.
So we'll start with Get Kelp. The name is about getting kelp in everybody's home. It's about really getting seaweed education and knowledge, people trying product, getting curious with the ocean.
It's a lifestyle brand that's all about showing how seaweed fits into everyday life, from food and skincare to sustainability, connecting with the coast, and helping people see seaweed as something fascinating, not just beach slime. Rachel and I are heading to one of our favorite dive sites in Sooke, BC. It's often called 7751 West Coast Road, or the Driveway. But today, I'm giving it a new name, Sooke Kelp Gardens. In this episode, we're learning all about kelp and seaweed, what they are, how they help our planet, and why they're essential to both ocean life and us. We'll dive in to find different kinds of kelp and highlight them underwater. However, partway through the dive, we were unexpectedly surrounded by a whole raft of stellar sea lions. Don't worry, everyone was safe, but it was unforgettable. We came to look for seaweed, but what we found was so much more. The first step into the water always feels like entering another world. As we descend, the forest opens. Each breath pulls us deeper into a forest that doesn't need trees, and the adventure begins. Kelp isn't a plant. It's a type of marine algae. It anchors to the rock with a holdfast, rises on a flexible stipe, and spreads out into blades that capture sunlight and nutrients. Some kelp even have tiny air bladders to float their fronds toward the light. And this is where it all begins. The source tissue.
Out here you saw a lot of reproductive parts of kelp as well. Like I think you were able to capture one of the ones that I was showing you, but that's reproductive portions of the kelp. And so a lot of them out there, active.
These tiny patches release spores, the next generation of the forest. Seaweed falls into three main groups: brown, red, and green. Kelp belongs to the browns, the fastest growing of them all. Reds include species like dulse and nori, while greens, like sea lettuce, live closer to shore. And here, at the Sooke Kelp Gardens, we can see a bit of everything. However, most people see kelp as a simple seaweed, but it's actually the backbone all along the Pacific coast. There are so many types of kelp and seaweed, and honestly, even experts struggle to name them all underwater. But let's look at a few that you might recognize. Sea palm looks like a miniature tree with a woody stem. It clings to rocks in high energy zones, waving through surf that would rip most species apart. Rachel's looking at one here, tough and flexible at the same time.
The sea palm it's more for rugged conditions. So you see it a bit closer to shore, maybe not shallows, but closer to shore. And that's one that has the woody stalk. The holdfast is really firm on a solid rock, and then it has the palm tree up top, looks like a palm tree, and that allows it to the top to sway and get the nutrients, but it still stays nice and firm, and it doesn't typically reach the surface during tide.
Then there's this, a bright red seaweed. There are thousands of red species in BC alone. Each one is unique, branching, feathered, or sheet-like. So here's a question for you. Can you tell which one this is? Drop your guess in the comments. Bull kelp with its long stipe and single float. Giant kelp with many floats like pearls. Sugar kelp with a thick rippled blades. Three-ribbed kelp with long ridges. Winged kelp with its thin mid-rib that helps dance in the current. Feather boa kelp with frilly edges and of course, sea lettuce, the vibrant green seaweed that hugs the shallows. These forests are more diverse than a tropical reef. They just need colder water and a bit of curiosity to appreciate them. Each frond has a role. Together, they create a city beneath the waves. In the balance of the kelp forest, grazers and predators perform a delicate dance. Urchins, small, spiny lawnmowers chew through kelp holdfasts, turning forests into barrens. But here and there, a hero returns, the sunflower sea star. Once nearly wiped out by disease, their return brings hope, because these stars are urchin hunters. When they thrive, the kelp can rise again. A simple truth in nature. Balance sustains the garden. But this isn't destruction, it's the ocean asking for help. Hidden beneath the rocks of these gardens lives one of the ocean's great shapeshifters, the giant Pacific Octopus. They're solitary and shy, often wedged in cracks and dens, skin shifting from velvet red to sand brown in a blink. Each arm holds hundreds of suction cups, each one capable of tasting and touching at once. But in every forest, there's a guardian. However, this one has 8 arms. At first, it was just a glimpse. Shadows in the distance. Then one swept right past us. Another and another. Suddenly, sea lions. 3 of them, then 4. Playful, fast, curious, and absolutely fearless. We held position, hearts racing, as they circled and darted through the kelp, spinning, twisting, coming right up to our faces and masks. These were stellar sea lions, the largest of the eared seals. Males can weigh over a ton, yet move with the grace of a dancer. They hunt herring and salmon, but today they were just playing. And for a few electric minutes, we weren't divers exploring their world. We were part of it. When you leave the water, you realize how alive it really was down there. Every blade, every current, every creature, part of a larger rhythm. Kelp doesn't just grow, it gives, feeds, shelters, and balances. And every dive reminds me how connected we are to it all. Well, that was a pretty awesome dive.
It was amazing. Yeah.
The sea lions, there was like what, it started with 3 and then we ended with 4 and they started going at each other down
Yeah,
there
was 3 of them that were with us the whole dive, and then the 4th one, when they came in, they got a little bit rowdy, but we were turning around anyways.
Yeah, I didn't think they were gonna stay with us forever. Like a lot of times they just come and they do like a couple circles, but like this was like the whole time.
The whole time, yeah, and they were like right in your face too. They came up and were like checking you out, and yeah, coming up nice and close, and we're checking, we're looking at seaweed, and all of a sudden the sea lion's right in your face again.
Yeah, so there was lots of different types of kelp and seaweeds down there.
Yeah.
Obviously there was the bull kelp, which is, more popular species, but you were saying there's lots of different species that we saw down there, or different types of kelp too?
Yeah, actually this area, we'll just stick with talking about kelp because there was so many kinds. Besides this, there was we started by going through sea palm actually, which is the hardier seaweed, and there was a lot of that really healthy beds, and then we entered into like the kelp area where there was like giant kelp, rib kelp, there was a bit of sugar kelp out there, there was bull kelp. We could go on, but there was just so many kinds of kelp out there. It was really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we saw like that red one too, like that was like that big sheet of red kind of seaweed or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it was. I see that a lot of places down here. I have no idea what it is. Well, thanks again for coming on BC Adventures, and best of luck with Get Kelp.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to go diving again.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So after surfacing, Rachel and I talked about what we had seen and how kelp isn't just a forest underwater, but a foundation for everything above it too. Here's Rachel with more on how Get Kelp is helping people rediscover the ocean, one frond at a time. All right, hey adventurers, and welcome back to BC Adventures. We've got Rachel Huber here from Get Kelp. So Rachel, tell me a little bit about what
It's okay.
So Rachel, tell me a little bit about what Get Kelp is.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
And kind of like what you're trying to do with it.
It started as a passion project I'm an underwater diver, scuba diver, and I've been scuba diving for, 20 years, since I was a teenager. And I've spent a lot of time in ocean conservation and in that industry. And I really only came around to seaweed because I spent so much time looking at it. And I started learning about it. And I was like, oh, while I'm learning about this, I'll start blogging about it. And then I realized there's a huge gap of knowledge between what scientists know and what the general public knows.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how Get Kelp started. It's about really getting seaweed education and knowledge into everybody's homes. It's about people trying product and learning, getting curious with the ocean. And that's how it started. And now it's developed into really like an information library, a media site, to just really amplify the message of why seaweed is good for the planet and good for us. And I also have a marketplace where I curate products that I find from all over North America. So people can come to my website and be like, I would like to use seaweed, but where do I start? So they have everything from food that they can use in their kitchen. They can find creams for their body, and then they can find books and guidebooks or just free resources to learn about it and activities for kids, all sorts of things.
Cool. So there's here, we're at, today we're at 7751 West Coast Road, or you actually like to call it the driveway.
I do, yeah.
But I think we almost need to have like a community naming convention. It's just like, obviously a name of an address isn't the best way, but when you say it, everyone kind of knows what you're talking about. Anyway, we are here and there's 2 kelp forests here. We've got a nice kelp bed back here. And then right now in this season, you can even see on the beach that some of the kelp is starting to wash up. So like for me, who's like, you know, I scuba dive and I love kelp, but I don't really like harvest kelp or anything. Like, is this something like I could just go pick up off the beach and eat, or would I have to like swim out and like harvest properly? Like, do you have information on that?
Yeah, actually that's one of my most popular articles on, you know, what do I do? How do I get seaweed? And what do I do with it? Like, do I wash it? Do I, you know, can I eat it right off the beach? So you can eat seaweed from the beach if it's after the right tide. You don't want seaweed that's slimy been sitting there. If it smells or it's slimy, it's not good to eat.
Okay, I mean that's almost like common sense.
Well, it is, but like it's those questions. It's a popular question.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
When to go, where to get it from, what do I do with it? And like that's only a small portion of the site. You can get seaweed 3 ways. Basically, you can go out and collect it. You can collect it from beach cast, which I was just talking about, but you can also get it from farms. There's a lot of seaweed farms within BC. We have a huge coastline. And so you can support farmers by getting already farmed seaweed that you know is good quality.
Cool. Yeah. So kelp, I've heard, and actually I put this in one of my videos, is it called blue carbon? Like, do people refer to it as blue carbon, or is that?
Yeah, so it's a bigger umbrella. We have blue economy, which is basically, well, it's a huge term, but it's anything that's ocean positive, that's going to be, you know, our planet works around dollars, right? And the blue does have an economy. You have things like seaweed, you have things like fish, you have, you know, the health of the oceans really affects the health of the rest of our planet. So that's where the term blue economy comes from. And then you have blue carbon. Yeah. So seaweed is, I think it's something like
70 to 80% of our oxygen comes from the ocean, and a big part of that is seaweed.
Nice. Yeah, no, kelp's such a fascinating organism, and it does such good things for the environment. So can you tell me a little bit about like how harvesting it, like if it's removing all the CO2 from the atmosphere, like if humans are going and harvesting it, how does that also benefit the environment and our ecology here?
Yeah, so you have to be really conscious when you're harvesting. You don't pull the whole plant up from the hold fast. You don't cut it all off. I guess it's related. You could relate it to like gardening. If you, at the end of the season or it's growing season, you can give your garden a nice prune, and it encourages regrowth. It encourages regeneration, and that's kind of like with like harvesting of kelp. It's kind of the same way. You want to be really sustainable with your practices. Again, I talk about that on Get Kelp. That's why it's also good to support, you know, farmers that are already doing this, because farmers are actually putting in like they're seeding local kelps back into places where they may have disappeared, or they're putting in new beds, which is, you know, homes for all sorts of ocean life. They're reduced, like taking CO2, putting oxygen out. They're reducing acidification, and like kelp beds like this, it's
stopping the waves from hitting the shore so hard.
So there's all sorts of benefits to having wild organic harvesting as well as farms. there's benefits of both, and it's just all a matter of how you do it sustainably, like any other plant. There's so many other kinds of seaweeds out there. I found this piece on the beach earlier, and this is called Turkish towel. It's just a piece of red seaweed.
Yeah, let's bring it up here.
It's a piece of red seaweed, and it's all see all the bumps on it. It's like an exfoliation. So Turkish towel is great for scrubbing your skin. You can reuse it and dry it and reuse it, and you get little pieces that break off like this that you can just take home. And this was a beach cast right after a high tide. And the other thing about seaweed is it doesn't require feed, it doesn't require fertilizer, it doesn't require anything but ocean currents and sunlight to grow. So whether it's farming or harvesting, it's a product that's ocean positive.
All right, so you're based here out of Sooke, BC on Vancouver Island. Can you tell me a little bit about how you're involving the local communities and people in those communities in the Get Help? In the
Get Kelp.
in the Get Kelp initiative?
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of approach this as like a top level, like I'm definitely involved in the community, but I approach it as like kind of a top level focus. So I'm working with a partner with the Pacific Seaweed Industry Association, who represents trying to be a unified voice for the West Coast. Seaweed collective, like that's farmers and scientists, and schools, institutions, all of that. And I partnered with them to try and amplify awareness and knowledge and education about seaweed on a broad scale level. I've also working with the Canadian Seaweed Industry Network, which is Canada-wide, and I have a close working relationship with them with those organizations to try and really amplify the voice on a broader level. When it comes to smaller scale, I have things like this shirt, for instance. I'll just show you this shirt that I made. BC's Otherweed.
Oh, nice.
BC's Otherweed. Now, there we go. That shirt is basically something that we produce locally here that we're trying to sell and get into people's homes and wearing here because it really sparks the conversation about seaweed. It's like, wow, that's cool, but like, tell me more about why it's BC's Otherweed. Like, you know, we all have this culture around cannabis here, but like seaweed's been here longer and it's better for the planet. I mean, we're not going to go on the whole body, what people use it with, but and that's more of a local touch that we're trying to get people just sparking the conversation about, and you know, people like you, like why seaweed, why are we here, and how do we get involved? And I hope to do some educational programs. I'm doing some educational booklets, and then I'm also putting together like an interactive kind of kit for kids to go to the beach. Like one of my favorite things and another reason I started Get Kelp was taking my son, who's 2 years old, to the beach and finding, they're called dead man's fingers, but I don't tell him that, and squishing them like water balloons. Right. And he goes, seaweed, and he gets like really excited about it. And just getting people onto the beach, whether it's local or international, is really the goal of Get Kelp, getting people aware.
So, I mean, Get Kelp is really more of just like an educational, promotional initiative. You know, you're trying different products out and you're telling people about these products. Yeah. You're explaining like, you know, a lot of the local resources here on the island and just providing that education to everybody. I mean, that's really awesome. I'm really stoked that we cross paths, and like, you know, I'm learning a lot right now. Like I knew a little bit like about how kelp worked in the ecosystem, but like learning about how it's beneficial to humans and the earth. I'm just learning so much right now from you. So Rachel, what's been your biggest challenge with getting people to buy in that kelp and seaweed is like something as approachable or beneficial opposed to maybe something that's just niche or unfamiliar to them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have seaweed, and people really think about it as a weed, that it's debris, that it's in the way, that it's smelly and slimy. So it's really changing the whole entire idea of that seaweed is usable. And so it's kind of a bigger message than Get Kelp, and that's where I kind of started Get Kelp from, is because I want to take all that jargon that's out there, all the science speak, which all has a place, and make it useful for every day. I remove the jargon. I use terms that are broad and understandable. I stay away from the science terms. I verify all the facts, of course, but I make it approachable for people so that they can just stumble. It might be, you know, coastal explorers stumbling upon it, or it might be somebody, a family or mom being like, oh, can I give it to my kids? I try to really make it approachable, because the biggest challenge is changing the mindset that seaweed is useful. And, you know, it's been used in other parts of the world for hundreds of years, but BC and the people here are really behind on that it's useful and that it's part of the blue economy and that it's better for our planet.
Right. Yeah, because it's like a super popular product over in Asia. Like if you know, I've gone out for sushi and other types of Asian food, and seaweed's integrated in all sorts of dishes. But here, I guess it's starting to a little bit. I mean, I've had there's a gin product actually made in Langford, Sheringham's.
Yep.
I think actually, were they based out of Sooke?
They're based out of Sooke.
They're based out of Sooke. Yeah, they have like a seaweed, like a kelp botanical type one.
Yeah,
so I mean, and
it's really good.
And is there like also like there's like some meatballs or something?
Yeah. So umami is the flavor that people are after with seaweed. It's like it's not salty, sweet, bitter. It's like richness. It enhances the richness of whatever it's in, and that's what seaweed does. That's why it's great in liquor. Like Tofino has a kelp ale that's really, or kelp stout that's really good.
Nice.
I personally, one of my favorite things to do is I have different kinds of kelp or seaweed shakers, and I put it in my meatballs as a secret recipe, which is also, you know, behind the lines. There's other products coming out for the industry like that from other people outside of me, because it really enhances the
Flavor of products.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody here in Canada usually uses story sheets for their seaweed.
Yes.
But then they're like, well, what do I do with it now? And like Get Kelp has recipes on there. Like if you sign up for our newsletter, you actually get a free kelp pickle recipe. So it tells you like what part of you use the kelp stipe and how to make pickles that you can use. Is great on charcuterie boards or on liquid crackers, and they're ready in a couple hours. Super easy to do, super fun family activity, and really great for your body, and super easy to use. So yeah, nori is one of the main products, but there's so many ones out there.
Yeah, like I've actually heard of like these kelp pickles. I think I follow somebody on Instagram. It's called like Barnacle
Foods.
Yeah, they're always like eating kelp stipes or something. Like that's a sound like I'm always engaged. I've never tried a kelp pickle, but like you've got a recipe on your website.
Yeah.
Okay, like I'm doing it.
Okay, good. You just sign up for the newsletter. It shoots to you free, and it's like just a PDF you follow, and or it's a simple recipe. And Barnacle Foods is doing great things because they do really good storytelling.
Yeah.
And pickles, like charcuterie is a thing, you know, all us like Lech Kit kids are like and we're now looking as adults, we're like, how do we kind of redo that thing? Or like we have New Year's coming up and Christmas, those kind of events.
You can wow your friends as a conversation starter.
And it's really good. They're crunchy, they're a little bit salty, they're full of umami, which is that richness. Yeah, they're really
cool.
Good.
Yeah, no, I love charcuterie. I love snacking at Christmas too.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like getting me all primed for that season.
Yeah.
The rain is starting to come down, and I don't want to miss slack. This has been an awesome conversation, but I think maybe we should, let's go for a dive.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll see you next time on BC Adventures.